the U.S. Army is having its conference once again in 2021 after a year of having it virtually. Jen, Todd, we'll be at the conference. We'll be on the show floor the whole time. You'll be up at the speeches. Jen, let's start with you. What can we expect this year at AUSA?
You know, it's going to be important to the Army to acknowledge how they're going to be operating as climates become more severe, as climate change happens. They need to know how to operate in hotter climates, in colder. The Army also rolled out an Arctic strategy earlier this year that couches pretty nicely with a climate strategy because they're going to have to learn how to better operate in the Arctic as well. So we'll be watching for that. I think another conversation that we're going to be hearing a lot is modernization priorities. Will the Army be able to preserve those priorities in the coming budgets? Those budgets are expected to be flat or they're expected to decline. And so I think that we'll hear the Army explain that they're going to be able to preserve the modernization priorities again in fiscal year 2023, the next budget cycle.
Jen, does the Army have enough information for it to go forward on the climate strategy? Are there enough studies that have been completed?
I mean, I believe so. We'll have to see what the climate strategy says to get a sense of how well they're understanding things. But the Biden administration really wants to accelerate climate change studies and their strategy, and they're putting money towards that. The Pentagon has been doing that even in the Trump administration. The Army, I think, acknowledges that they're going to have to operate in places like the Arctic, and there's coastal erosion. The Arctic is going to have a whole new ocean to operate in, and so these are all things that the Army is concerned about. And just being able to, operate in climates that are obviously changing. It's getting hotter and hotter. Are soldiers going to be able to train in 90-degree days? Probably not. There's going to be more 90-degree days every year. So how is the Army going to cope with that? And so hopefully we'll see some of those answers in the strategy.
Will any of the information there change the modernization strategy?
I mean, it's hard to tell. I don't believe so because I think a lot of the modernization efforts are going to take into account some fuel efficiencies, things like that. I think that it's absolutely on the table for like the optionally manned fighting vehicle to potentially be hybrid or at least more fuel efficient. They're looking at making robotic combat vehicles potentially all electric or hybrid. There's a lot of opportunities to be greener. So we'll just see how that unfolds.
And on the personnel side, Todd, is there anything that you're looking at that might be coming out of AUSA?
Oh yeah, I think starting out the gate, General Michael Garrett with the U.S. Army Forces Command is going to be talking about the REARM, the Regionally Aligned Readiness and Modernization Model. It's really kicking into full strength this coming year, and it kind of overlaps with some of the stuff that Jen said about modernization, but also folds in training and deployments. So what they're trying to do is essentially align, like they say in the acronym, align the regions to different units, make sure different units are working with different combatant commands, different Army commands, but also finding time within the schedule to modernize as they train and remain ready and also deploy. Because they can't stop everything just to modernize, and they can't stop modernization just to go train and deploy. So it's kind of a mixed match model of that. It's a little more sophisticated than what they've used in the past, and it's going to try to accomplish a lot of goals, spinning a lot of plates the Army has to handle.
One thing we'll see at the show floor that we can see, you can actually grab, will be different versions of the SAW replacement, of the squad automatic weapon. What are you expecting there?
Right, we're coming to almost the fruition of the next generation squad weapon program. It's possible to down select by next year. In fact, they're choosing the fire control, the optic already this year for that weapon. There's 3 competitors. You've got 6 Sauer, who provided the new pistol for the Army. It's more of a conventional, very familiar kind of weapon, very designed much like you would see a typical assault rifle. Then you've got, of course, the Textron systems, which is a caseless telescope ammunition. It's like a plastic polymer case. The bullet is inside the case, so it saves weight, saves space, but still has the same performance. And you also have General Dynamics has an entry which uses a Bullpup design. It shortens the weapon, thereby providing better balance and a little bit more accuracy by putting the magazine behind the hand guard and the trigger housing. And all of those are going to be in 6.8 millimeter, which is a brand new caliber that's never been fired by U.S. military as far as a standardized weapon. And it's a big improvement on the 5.56.
Why is that a big improvement on the 5.56?
It's got essentially the more power and range, more lethality. You can shoot out to 600 meters versus 300 meters. It can be lethal at 600 meters. It actually outperforms even the larger bullet, the 7.62 millimeter, which is in the 240 machine gun and some sniper rifles. So it's a smaller caliber round that is easier and more convenient to pack than a heavier machine gun, but has the same performance.
Do you know if soldiers have any thoughts on a Bullpup design?
It's not the most popular design with most U.S. shooters. It's very European. A lot of the European countries have it. They sing its praises, but just culturally, I think it's not really gone over well in the U.S. so far. But we'll see what the competition has to say.
The Army's going through modernization. There's always going to be new technology there. What can you expect to see, Jen?
Yeah, so there's a lot of competitions on the horizon for modernization priorities. We're going to see most likely something related to the mobile protective firepower capability for infantry brigade combat teams. BAE Systems and GDLS, General Dynamics Land Systems, are competing for that. A decision is expected in fiscal year 2022, so it's coming up who will be the winner of that. We'll also see BAE Systems and GDLS bringing technology development into vehicles at the show for the optionally manned fighting vehicle. These will not be the vehicle designs, but they will showcase some of the technology that the companies are interested in putting into that. There are 3 other competitors for the OMFV initial design phase, which is just to look at how to design the vehicle. It's not looking at designing the vehicle. So
that's a Bradley replacement, right?
Exactly, that's a Bradley replacement. So we'll see Oshkosh and a Hanwha team, the South Korean company, will be there likely with technology as well. And then a smaller company, Point Blank, is also designing for the competition, as well as Rheinmetall and a Raytheon team.
That's a big show.
Yes.
Pandemic, no pandemic, it's going to be a lot of technology there. We'll see what the turnout is. Todd, there's going to be you're going to see some training and technology?
Definitely, yeah. With some of the deployments somewhat winding down, like other than exercises, there's more time and space to do training, and the Army's dumping a lot of resources into technology for that training. So you're going to see things from the Maneuver Center of Excellence and from the Fire Center of Excellence. They're extending training. They're adding, experimenting with new types of units to work with these new platforms to be more effective in kind of the great power competition, large-scale combat operations. Training kind of follows and flows with that. Even little things like, at the Maneuver Center, the infantry guys, the grunts are getting, brand new GPSs, so if they get lost on the land nav course, if they have a heat casualty, they can get called up and they can get, rescued pretty quickly or get some kind of relief. They've also got a digital sand table. Basically, you stand on your sand table and can look around with goggles and see everything that's going on before you step out on that mission. Way advanced from like MRE boxes and sand and shoe boxes, kind of stuff we used to do, back in the day.
Back in the day.
So the training is leaping forward with both time, expansion, and in technology for sure.
And this is the biggest acquisition show here in D.C., arguably. If you had to pick between one movie, Pentagon Wars or War Dogs, both acquisition movies in a sense, what would you pick, Jen?
Pentagon Wars, that is a movie I will rewatch 1,000 times, just to laugh at all the things. I mean, it's all the things I've covered. It's all the troubles that the Army has had. We'll see if they can, I hope we don't have a repeat of that movie with the Bradley replacement going forward, but they're taking a very different approach than they did during the Pentagon Wars. So I am looking forward to seeing how that comes out.
It's always interesting. Acquisitions always got something going on. Todd?
I'm going to choose War Dogs, just as my first love is small arms and shoulder fighter rockets, and those guys sold a hell of a lot of them. And as a prior service Marine, I just like shooting stuff.
Both good movies, both worth watching. Defense News will have a booth down on the showroom floor, so make sure to swing by. We'll have Defense News masks. Make sure to pick one up.